I think, have you seen there's probably a name for this mental effect, but it's like when you first start something, you really don't know much, but from what you've looked into it, it looks interesting and you think you know enough to do it okay. And so, like, what you know is like way down here, and what you think you know is way up here. People listening to this later on audio, I'm moving my hands around. And then as you learn more, you're technically learning more, but you also learn that there's a vast amount that you haven't learned yet. So even though you know more than you did when you started, your confidence goes down because you're aware of the things you're missing. I am struggling a little bit right now with the structure of novels. I know I'll never get George R. R. Martin on as an interview, but the structure of A Song of Ice and Fire just fascinates me because the story, I've talked about this before, so sorry if you've heard this before, but the book starts, the real story starts about 20 years before the actual book starts. And I always wonder, like, what made him want to tell that story and not the story of 20 years ago? Because if you start it now, the story of 20 years ago has become mythic, and, who was there, who remembers, who has survived. And so it becomes kind of a mystery. So I kind of just answered that. But I guess when do you want to reveal that? Another way of looking at it is, I had never read, I can't remember the Ted Chiang short story title, but it's the short story that they based the movie Arrival on. And I saw Arrival first, and then I picked up the story. And I won't spoil it, but there's a rather large reveal at the end that kind of blew my mind. It was a very interesting reveal. But when I picked up the short story, he mentions it in the first paragraph. So that was not a twist he chose to put in his story, but the producers of the film decided to put in the script, or the writers, I should say. So I am, thinking about where my story has to start and what I want to reveal and when. And I'm going back to my 6 Wakes structure, which I totally stole from the TV show Lost, because I really like the idea of showing you people in the present day and making you assume things about them, and then showing you a flashback and letting you know you're completely wrong. And I did that with 6 Wakes, and that was a lot of fun. So I'm thinking of doing that again. But still, it's how do you know when you reveal what? Is something like a end of the chapter reveal? Is it a end of the book reveal? I don't know. I shouldn't let myself get hung up on this, but it still confounds me sometimes. But that's what I'm working on.